2 has entered the podcast.
Welcome back, people, to Player 2 has entered the podcast, a very special episode. I am your co-host, Michael, a.k.a. MC Paperstacks, and with me, as always, is my co-host with the co-most,
Derek, a.k.a. Full Metal Merc, and we've got some special guests with us.
That's right. We are doing a spoilercast of Loki on Disney+, all episodes, super spoilers, so if you haven't seen the show, probably want to dip out now and go watch the show. Why haven't you seen it yet? But we decided this is a job too big for just the two of us. So joining us are two Loki super fans. You may know them as the hypest podcast hosts in Houston, GP and AD from Call It Like I Don't See It podcast. What the house? AD, where's your
I wish so much that was our intro music, dude. Like,
yeah, that would be cool. Yeah,
it grows on you. Like at first, I was like, "This is kind of cool," and then after a while, like I was like, "AD," I'm like, "This is clearing my skin." I love that. Oh my god,
opens the pores.
Yeah. But I was getting ready to ask you, AD, do you have your kazoo? But I was like, never mind. He's got the music down. We're good.
Yeah,
right.
I got it. Don't worry. I can do that throughout this spoilercast if you want. Yeah. As long as my throat holds up.
I have it handy.
Need that for a ringtone.
Yeah, for real, dude. Ultimate alarm. Alarm.
Yeah. So I think all of us pretty much enjoyed the show, but I wanted to dive into the cast, what we thought about the various characters in the show, and then we'll go episode by episode sequentially, 1 through 6, and just talk about what we thought about each episode, what we would rate it, the parts we liked, the parts we didn't like. So let's get into it.
Awesome.
First off, we got the titular character, Loki himself, played by Tom Hiddleston. I thought he nailed it in this. I really enjoyed his performance. What'd you guys think?
I mean, he's done just as well as he's done in past MCU properties. Loki is a dope character, and it's very cool to see him go through some more changes, even though we already got that. But since this is a different Loki, it's cool to see his journey that he had to go on.
I think some change up with Loki doing as far as having a softer side. We got a little bit of that during Thor Ragnarok, but this is the full-on softer side of Loki we never seen before. So it was nice seeing that.
Yeah, definitely. I want to piggyback off of that. He did take the character to new levels. Like, that's what was gripping mostly to me with his character, how he portrayed him. You know, just the talents of this actor himself. Knocked out that role like it was nothing. You know, after doing it for so long in the Infinity War saga, and then having to sort of reinvent the Loki for this whole new timeline of this Loki, like that is a very serious task to take on, and he nailed it. He knocked it out the park.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Before
He
we
should get an Emmy. Give him an Emmy or something.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I would add to that. I almost thought we'd have to retread a lot of ground because we've watched Loki progress to, you know, his more virtuous side throughout the MCU, especially in Thor Ragnarok. But the way that they did it in this show still felt organic and fresh and interesting. I actually really applaud his performance and the writing for that. So that's great.
Yeah.
Then we have Ravonna Renslayer, the judge, played by Gugu Mbatha-Raw. Her name is actually pronounced Gugu. I checked it today on Google.
Her name is actually Gugu?
Her name is Gugu.
Hey, Gugu.
She can Gugu my Mbatha-Raw.
All right. Derek is very attracted to Renslayer. I gotta say, she's a cutie. Yeah,
Renslayer's
yeah, she's a British actress, and she definitely held it down. I don't know. Do you guys feel like her character arc made sense? I kept expecting her to like swing to one side or the other, and there to be more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm sure they're just waiting to explore that for season 2.
Could be. Yeah.
They just pushed her through that door. Like, we'll take care of your character more.
Right.
Yeah. One of the characters I really enjoyed, though, was Hunter B-15. That's Wunmi Mosaku, the lady who played Ruby in Lovecraft Country. Love her.
Yeah.
She was great.
Yeah.
She was great. And then other standouts, we had Miss Minutes, played by Tara Strong, the little clock lady. I don't know if you guys...
that money.
Yeah, Tara Strong is a prolific voice actress. I don't know if people on the podcast know about this or our listeners. She was Riku in Final Fantasy X. She played Paz in the Metal Gear series. She's Dill Pickles, Bubbles and Powerpuff Girls. She was even Timmy Turner. Well,
she's
that's
been in
the
game
thing.
for
Like,
a long time.
if there's an animated property, even some Ghibli films, there's a good chance you're going to find her among the cast for sure.
Yeah, her and Cree Summer, I think, are just, as far as female voice actors go, they run everything.
Yeah.
True story. And then one of AD's favorite characters, Mobius, played by Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
yes.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm
still kind of disappointed he didn't say wow like in the season.
yeah.
I know.
Right.
I was
Hopefully
waiting for that
season
to
2.
drop.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah,
you could have made him do it when he got nerfed or purged. Sorry.
Yeah. Just like he disappears.
Oh wow, you guys have a big Goliath thing there, huh? Oh wow.
Wow, Elias, huh? Wow.
I was kind of hoping
he's
we
big,
would see
wow.
him like get plucked off his jet ski, and that's when he would do the wow. Like he'd be back behind, he's riding his jet ski. Wow, what's that?
Yeah.
Again,
Well,
season
such a
2.
Awesome element to the conversation game, like that playfulness, and like he doesn't really care, but he still kind of cares in how he's talking to Loki. I was just like, man, you couldn't pick a better actor to play out that kind of role. Like his dialogue is what gripped us, a lot of us, early on in those first 2 episodes. I was like, my goodness, I could hear this conversation all day and just be thoroughly entertained.
Props to Owen Wilson overall, because you don't think of him as a actor that, like a crucial character actor, say like a Gary Oldman, but he was really the glue that held this show together. I think his scenes with any other characters, his relationship with Renslayer, his relationship with Loki, I mean, it really kind of brought a lot of depth and character to the series. So props to Owen Wilson for sure.
And when he wasn't on screen, I think the show suffered for it. Honestly,
He did.
Yeah, if there was. Yeah, I gotta say, one of the lowest rated episodes as far as like critical reception was one that didn't feature him at all. So I mean, coincidence? I don't know.
No, yeah, I think what episode was that? Was it 5 or 4? Where he wasn't in it at all?
I think it was 3 actually.
3.
Yeah,
3.
Yeah,
when it
we'll
was
get
focusing
into it.
mostly. Okay, cool.
For sure. But then we have Sylvie, which aka the Loki variant, played by Sophia Di Martino. What do you guys think about Sylvie?
AKA the multiverse starter.
Yeah.
Right. AKA Tom Hiddleston, your job isn't guaranteed.
Right.
AKA calm down.
I wasn't a big fan of Sylvie as a character, honestly. I don't really know, man. She just kind of...
I think where she really suffered, because I agree with you, like I liked her okay, but I think where she fell short was she was so hell-bent on revenge, and they built up this mystery around her and what a badass she was and how she was running circles around the TVA for years. But then once she was discovered and identified, then her decision-making and her cunning and everything kind of played a backseat in service to the plot. And then we're going to talk about it, I think, as the season itself wraps up, her decisions and kind of her arc. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of fell off with her and where she fell short personally for me. So I would agree with you there.
Yeah, I think we mentioned the same thing, and we talked about that one. The finale, what you're gonna get to. But,
we'll get to it. The last character I wanted to mention then was He Who Remains, played by Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
Big fan. Really enjoyed him in Lovecraft Country. The last black man in San Francisco.
Last black man at the end of
San
time.
Francisco.
That's right. What'd you guys think? I really think, even though he only had one episode to shine, he did a really good job. I
at
thoroughly
first,
enjoyed his performance.
when he first started, I was like, oh no, we're doing this. But as the episode went on, I was like, okay, I dig it. There's more to it. Okay, he'll be back and be putting a different twist on what's going on. So I really enjoyed it by the end of it.
Right.
Yeah, he seemed creepy in the beginning, kind of annoying, but then you're like, wait a minute, there's a deeper, darker side to this character coming up.
Right.
You could feel it, you could feel that other side of him as he was speaking. I was like, okay, y'all should not be messing with this dude, really.
Yeah, it did come off like he was impish, almost crazy, which is kind of almost rote and stock for a character that's lived a really long time. It's kind of like, how do you write somebody who's seen and done everything? You know what I mean?
Right.
But that aside, like you said, you start to kind of see the depth and the evolution of his character just within that single episode. It was very dialogue heavy, but I'm glad because I think we kind of needed that. It would have been nicer if maybe we got some more episodes to let that breathe, but the way that they did it, I think, was fine within the time constraints they set for themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and read off the episode synopsis for the first episode so we can kind of get into what we enjoyed, what we didn't enjoy, and what our overall rating is. So the very first episode we launched with was called Glorious Purpose. Loki is arrested by the Time Variance Authority, aka the TVA, when he creates a new timeline after escaping from the Battle of New York with the Tesseract in 2012. The TVA resets the timeline, and this variant Loki stands trial in front of Judge Renslayer for crimes against a sacred timeline. Loki blames the situation on the Avengers, who traveled back in time to 2012, but Renslayer says their actions were meant to happen, and his were not. Agent Mobius takes Loki to the Time Theater to review his past misdeeds and question his history of hurting people. He reveals that Loki, in his intended future, inadvertently causes the death of his adoptive mother, Frigga. Loki attempts to escape, but gives up after realizing the TVA's powers far exceeds that of the Infinity Stones. He returns to the Time Theater and watches more future events, including his own death at the hands of Thanos. He then agrees to help Mobius hunt another Loki variant who has killed several TVA agents and stolen their timeline resetting charges.
A very good
first
setup episode.
That's
Yes.
a good one. Yeah.
Launching pad.
Nice way to introduce the TVA.
It was
Yeah, I
perfect.
really liked the boredom, the mundaneness, and the routine of the TVA in the beginning. I mean, it's interesting. He just kind of pops up in the desert like, whoa. They show up immediately. He gets bodied. And then all of a sudden they're like, sign this for everything that you've ever said. What are you talking about? Sign
What are you
this
talking
too.
about?
Right. What?
Oh, my God.
I am a god. Mewling Quinn.
Glorious Purpose.
I think for me, my favorite part was one of my favorite parts was the fact that he found out they were using Infinity Stones as paperweights.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Great.
I think that floored a lot of us because I'm like, bro, that was like 23 movies you just shoved in your drawer. Like, what the hell?
Right.
That's how Marvel feels. This is over. We moving on.
Yeah, that was kind of like Marvel saying, yeah, it's time to move on from that, folks. We're moving into a whole different realm now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us after Phase 4, I think it was Phase 4 that ended the most recently with Infinity War and Endgame. I think a lot of us were like, God, where can they go from here? That was so epic and grand scale. Well,
Yeah.
this is where they go, I guess.
Yes.
So
Gotta go with the multiverse
Yeah.
saga.
And multiverse,
I kind of
got
wish, seeing him get knocked by that stick in the beginning when his mouth like slowed down. I was like, man, I wish like you could punch people like that in real life. Like, shut up.
Right.
Just start cheating.
and she walked up to him like, that pain you're feeling right now is in real time. It's extended because I slowed you down, so you just get to feel the punch this whole time I'm talking to you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
messed
man,
up,
this is
man.
cold
'cause
shit.
You can't do nothing about
Right.
it, too. You just gotta feel it.
It's just stuck there.
Stuck in that pain.
Oh,
But
man.
I think we mentioned this with how they explained the TVA it was kind of like explaining it to a child. Like they kind of like had to dumb it down so that it makes
Yeah.
sense, and it was perfect in that kind of infomercial way that they did it. I was just like, wow, this is perfect, just give it us straight, simplified, because it's a lot to take in on that first episode.
yeah, I really like the style of it.
Sacred time.
And it kind of reminded me, I know we've all probably seen this, the Umbrella Academy. They had their whole like time police thing. I think that obviously Marvel did it better, but the fact that you kind of go to the 1950s kind of work aesthetic for The Office, it's just very interesting and clean and easily understandable.
Yeah.
And it just adds to the we really don't give a crap, this is so normal for us kind of vibe, juxtaposed against just how much power they actually wield. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
So what would y'all rate the episode?
Episode 1, I'm gonna rate that one a 10 because the introduction of the TVA, explaining what Loki been through all within one whole episode to catapult you off into this whole season. So 10.
Yeah.
That's how you rate it, right? 10 out of 10.
Well, I usually do out of 5, but it's your
Oh,
rating.
well, 5 out of
Okay.
5. Yeah,
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Yeah, 5 out of 5.
Thing. I'd give it a 5 as well.
Yeah.
Very good jumping off point. Love it. Love it.
80?
Yeah, I'm giving it a 5 too because of just Owen Wilson's introduction to it. He nails it from the jump. That dialogue, the complexity of how they started talking with each other. I was just like, this is
Right.
brilliant. And then the vastness and the sky. I can't even say the sky was the limit. The universe was past the limit or whatever because everything was just like over the top there in terms of the grand scale of things. So definitely a 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would also say 5 out of 5. I can't see any way that an episode with this much information that they have to introduce could be edited down better or introduce the characters in a more engaging way. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Yep.
Well, episode 2 is titled The Variant, and Loki joins a TVA mission to the site of an attack by the Variant in 1985 Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where he stalls and attempts to bargain his way into meeting the Timekeepers, who the TVA claims created them and the sacred timeline. Renslayer objects to Loki's further involvement, but Mobius convinces her to give him another chance. Loki researches TVA files and theorizes that the Variant is hiding near apocalyptic events where their actions do not affect the timeline. Loki and Mobius confirm this possibility by visiting Pompeii in 79 AD before deducing that the Variant is hiding during a hurricane in 2050 Alabama, where they are ambushed by the Variant, who enchants several locals and TVA agent Hunter B-15. The Variant reveals herself to be a female version of Loki and rejects his offer to overthrow the Timekeepers together. She sends the stolen reset charges to various points along the sacred timeline, which activate and create numerous branched timelines that throw the TVA into disarray. She teleports away, and Loki follows her.
Beautiful.
Sounds like a whole lot happened there, too.
And
Right.
a whole lot did happen in that episode.
A bunch happened there. Yeah.
Whole lot did happen indeed.
So I mentioned
what I
earlier
will-
how
oh,
there
go
was
ahead.
all this like mystery behind female Loki, and we didn't discover who she was, but we kind of find out who she was pretty quickly at the end of episode 2 there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I still have
And-
my doubts about who she is, but
Fair enough.
we'll
you want to
talk
elaborate
about
on that?
later.
Oh, you want to talk about it later? Okay.
Yeah, we'll
All
talk
right.
about that later.
All right, well, AD, what'd you think about episode 2?
Episode 2, I mean, I loved it once again. I just keep going for the dialogue. I just love the dialogue talk. The part with the salad, that stole the show for me when he was giving the metaphor of what's going on. And he's like, don't eat
like,
my
no.
salad. Come on. I was eating
Oh,
that.
wow, not my salad. Wow,
Come on,
But
man.
in that explanation and the humor behind it, you still understand what Loki's point was in terms of trying to figure out where the Variant is going to be. And it was just like so well done. I was
Well,
like, man,
that's my favorite part is we knew before he even started the explanation, he was just ruining this man's lunch.
Right.
on purpose.
He didn't care. He didn't care.
Like, even Mobius knew what he was going to say. He's like, oh, no, I get it. Don't tell him my salad.
Oh, man.
My favorite part of the episode is when they went to Pompeii.
I was literally getting
Loki's
ready to
just
say
like-
the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
He's literally just like, nothing matters.
You're all
You're all gonna
doomed.
die.
Fucked. Fly, goats, fly.
And then he started saying in their language, which was funny too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Loki knows them languages.
Yeah.
Which
That's
is
another
another-
thing I liked.
They were
Right.
speaking Latin, which I thought was interesting. Like, Loki
Yeah.
knows that dead language. Of course he does.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which another thing I like about Loki is like they show you how smart he actually is and how caught up with history he is too at the same time. You might think he just in Asgard the whole time, but nah, Loki be, he venture around without nobody noticing. You know how he be
Right.
leaving and escaping Asgard and going to different places and discovering things. So
Well, Loki is the ultimate mathlete. So he's an Asgardian prince. They probably had a formal education. Thor was off probably being a jock. And
Yeah.
Loki was hitting books. Like, I'll show you one day.
Right.
So, of course, that comes in handy
Yeah.
here.
And that education part of it, they showed parts of that when he was explaining to them the diversity of his powers, right? And he was like, no, that's actual. He was talking about the projection power, I think it was. That was episode 2, right?
I
Yeah.
took that as
Illusion,
him
yeah.
just being a dick.
It was part him being a dick,
Part-
but also being a smartass at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I know my stuff, guys. All right?
Yeah, I feel like
Right.
he was purposely using big terms to confuse or make it sound like they didn't know what they were talking about. I'm pretty sure they knew what they were talking about too, but
yeah.
it was funny the way he came off like that, and they were like, "Okay, slow down, calm
Yeah.
down, man."
Mhm.
Yeah, especially at the end, we said, "But you already knew that."
Right.
And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, we see Loki immediately, and I almost thought that what he was doing was a ploy to put Mobius on his heels by being too obvious with trying to manipulate him.
Yeah.
Because
me
he
too.
immediately
Yeah.
learns about the Timekeepers and says that's on the table, and then immediately tries to stall and get Mobius to agree to let him meet them, like that would work. And I
Right.
feel like Loki's too smart to know that that would work, but that never really manifested into anything either. So now I'm like, what was that his earnest attempt? Because that was bad.
Yeah, that was
Right. That
Yeah.
was.
And even Mobius called him out on it. It's like, you almost
He's
thought
lying.
you had me. You thought you had me.
All right,
to
so
say
let's,
wow right there.
let's give that a rating. GP, what do you rate the episode?
I think I gave it a 4 for that episode.
Okay. Yeah, and ratings change. Don't worry about your past rating. We're talking about today. You
Okay.
can sit and
Four.
marinate with it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Derek,
Four.
what'd you think?
I'd give it a 4 as well. Not as good as the first.
4.5. The half point came for me was when all hell broke loose at the end of that episode when she is that when she bombed the timeline?
Yeah, that was
it,
hype because
right?
we saw all
That
those
was-
branches come.
Oh,
off.
yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, is this the
Mm-hmm.
multiverse? And we were all like, multiverse going crazy. So I was just like, that moment alone was like what spiked it up for me. So 4.5.
That was fun. Yeah, I would give it a
Yeah.
4 as well. Pretty solid 4. All right, well, we get to episode 3, Lamentis. With the TVA distracted, the variant arrives at their headquarters and attempts to find the Timekeepers, but is followed by Loki. They are attacked by Renslayer, and Loki uses a Timpad to teleport them both to 2077 Lamentis 1, a moon that is being crushed by a planet. The Timpad runs out of power, and the variant, who goes by Sylvie, agrees to work with Loki to charge it. They sneak aboard a train bound for the Ark, an evacuation spaceship that could recharge the Timpad, but Loki gets drunk and draws attention to them. This leads to a fight with the guards, who throw him off the train. Sylvie follows him, only to find the Timpad broken. The duo continue on foot, intending to commandeer the Ark so they can escape before Lamentis 1 is destroyed. On the way, Sylvie reveals that the TVA's workers are actually variants of people from Earth. Loki and Sylvie fight their way through guards and a crowd of people attempting to board the Ark, but meteors from the oncoming planet destroy it before they can board. You know what's interesting about that? I didn't think about it until just now because of the wording. So the TVA's workers are actually variants for people from Earth. Kind of makes sense because everybody speaks English. Although
Right.
you would think that they would be able to speak alternate languages. Didn't they address that in the first episode? That different languages translate themselves somehow? Maybe I'm misremembering.
I think that was
I don't remember.
wasn't that during Guardians as well when James Gunn was saying like how Peter understand Rocket and Groot is some kind of device they have in their ear where they can like
Translate.
through different languages or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. Sometimes I have to let that stuff go. Like when Thor was creating his new hammer, and somehow, I guess he had an earpiece so him and the dwarf could talk to each other.
Right.
But how did
Right,
they have an
right,
earpiece big
yeah.
enough
Everyone
for
has
the dwarf?
earpieces in the MCU.
That's
Yeah,
dumb as
exactly,
shit.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and by the way, he's in the middle of a dying star, which is probably loud as fuck.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what killing
But
you
okay.
means.
Static and everything.
His earpiece is more powerful, but then the
Right.
noise the sun
Yeah.
is making.
That Bluetooth
Exactly,
technology,
yeah.
man, that could save the
Right.
world.
It's them Raycons.
MC.
But no, I guess
that's 7G right there.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess the point I was trying to make, if this is a sacred timeline, that goes across all universes, because obviously it affected every planet in the universe. So why aren't there more aliens in the TVA?
Right,
That's
I thought
weird.
that too.
Why did it have
Right.
to be humans, you know?
Right, that's a good question.
I think it's explained in the last episode, or inferred in the last episode, why
Okay,
it's all humans.
Put a pin in that, Derek, so you can
Yeah.
explain it to us real quick, because I don't recall. But yeah, what'd you guys think? GP, what'd you think about the episode?
That episode, I give that an episode 3 because I felt like a filler episode. I felt like their mission was brought to a halt. It made me feel like this was all for nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It was nice to see them get closer and stuff like that and try to work together, but I felt like towards the end, it felt like it was all for nothing. It felt like a filler episode to me.
That's fair. Derek, what'd you think?
I'll give that a 1, man. I hated
Damn.
that episode. I hated it. It was so boring and pointless. It was so boring and pointless.
Yeah.
And sorry, I can't even think. It was so boring. One thing I will say about the show is that's not good. Is that the action scenes are not up to par at all.
Yeah.
I will agree with you on that. I let it slide because that's not really the focus. But when the fights broke out, especially around the middle of the show, because some were okay, but it really did start to stand out as not lazy, just not as good, not as well choreographed as some of the other MCU fights that we've seen.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
nothing we haven't seen. How many times are you going to dodge a guy, slam his head on the table, and you want us to
Right.
make an effect to that or react to that? It's like, come
Mhm.
on, dude. The sword play to me was just so childish. Like, it looks like they looked
Yeah.
at a playground of kids playing sword fight, and they put that in the show. And I was like,
Yeah,
Right.
And they
Yeah.
kind
What are
of
you guys doing?
handicap themselves by removing powers, under the TVA, which I get. They could have made it a little bit more maybe brutal and raw because they had to go to fisticuffs with no powers. And they didn't because it's a Disney Plus show and they didn't want to go there. And I get that. They want to be like Daredevil in the hallway, right? But when they get their powers back, you don't really see interesting and creative use of their powers during the fights to kind of quickly end them. Because two Lokis with their full powers against these people on the moon should have been no contest.
Right.
You know? But it ended up just being a regular brawl like any other. So I agree with you there. 80, what do you think about the episode?
I was going to go with Derek's rating there. I would just drop it to a 0.5. I give it a 0.5.
Ooh, loud.
Because, the whole episode was like, can we bring Owen Wilson back on screen, please?
Yes.
Can we please get him back in to talk? Because I was like, okay, all right, cool. You guys are vibing. That's nice. We didn't have to see you vibing for the whole episode. Put some other parts in the plot to move it along or make it more interesting. And then, like G said with the last scene, I was like, these was just running around. Like, how you not know the layout properly of where you're running? It seemed like they ran in the same spot twice. And I was like, you can't see that you were here already? I don't know what the hell they were doing. But it's like they were killing time running around just to make it blow up in the end.
Fair.
Fill out these last 5 minutes. Run around like you're looking to escape, but not really, because it's going to blow up. So I was just like, this was a waste. And the point that you made again with the fight scenes, I was just like, boring. We've gone through 23 movies. We've seen how many different types of fights. You got to do something better than this. And
True.
If they could have just thrown in Owen Wilson for at least 5 minutes, it would have probably been a 2, but I'm just going to give it a half point.
Yeah, I would say, I do 5 because I feel like, 1 is terrible, 2 is less than average, 3 is average, yada, yada, yada. For me, I would align with GP. I think this was an average episode. Nothing about it really stood out. But if you compare it to other shows that aren't as good, we're comparing it to the other episodes within the same series and to the MCU quality overall. But if you look at it objectively outside of a bubble, I feel like it's a 3 out of 5 for me. I liked the revelation that the TVA workers were variants. But again, that was an offhand comment that really should have hit harder than it did. And you're right. They went there, arbitrarily ran out of juice, fucked around a bit, ended up failing anyways. But because of their little moment at the end where they kind of decided to align as a team, that created the variant to get them out of there. So if you remove this episode completely from the show, nothing would have changed. And I think that's the definition of an average-ass forgettable episode for sure.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
All right, let's get to it. Episode 4, the Nexus event. Sylvie tells Loki that she escaped from the TVA as a child. They form a romantic bond, which creates a unique branched timeline and alerts the TVA to find and arrest them before Lamentis 1 is destroyed. Mobius leaves Loki in a time loop of a bad memory he has of Sif, while Sylvie unlocks B-15's memories to prove that B-15 is a variant. Renslayer tells Mobius that C-20 died from a mental breakdown, but Mobius finds a recording of Renslayer interrogating a mentally sound C-20, who insists the TVA workers are all variants. Mobius then frees Loki from the time loop, but Renslayer confronts them and has Mobius pruned. Renslayer takes Loki and Sylvie to the Timekeepers, who order Loki and Sylvie to be deleted. With B-15's help, Loki and Sylvie defeat Renslayer and the Timekeepers' guards. Sylvie beheads one of the Timekeepers, but discovers they're just androids before a recovered Renslayer prunes Loki. Sylvie overpowers Renslayer and demands the truth, and then in a mid-credits scene, we see Loki awakens, surrounded by several other Loki variants. Really good episode here. I like it a lot.
That was a great one.
Yeah.
This was their bounce back.
Yeah. Because isn't this the same episode that Owen Wilson's character got pruned as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So basically when Owen Wilson finds out, he gets the information on C-20, which is one of the TVA agents that was mind-controlled by Sylvie in episode 2. And Renslayer lies to Mobius and says that C-20 died. But when he finds out the truth that C-20 got pruned for saying the same thing that Loki was trying to tell Mobius, Mobius is like, okay, time to get Loki so we can rock. And as soon as they get out, she's already there, and she prunes him immediately, which was rough.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
we
so
If they
didn't.
did not show that
Yeah.
end credit scene, that would have hurt like so much.
That's true.
I was like, clearly, the pruning doesn't mean that they are dissolved. They go somewhere. Like I knew even before the end credits scene. I was like, there ain't no way they're going to kill the main character like that.
Right.
But I remember, I think you had a guest when you guys talked about episode 4 on your show, and the guest didn't see the mid-credits scene.
No.
Yeah.
And she was so heartbroken.
Oh, man. Poor
She was
Ari.
like, I
That's
just can't believe
funny.
they killed him. I was like, I know,
Right.
right, girl? Did you see the end credits, though? Oh.
Did she end credits though? No.
Because
Oh,
he
you
alive.
gotta go
He's
back.
actually not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever something like that happens, you gotta let them credits rock, man.
Yeah.
Marvel's gonna
Yeah.
let you know what's going on. All right, well, Derek, give me your overall rating. What do you think about the episode?
I'll give that episode a 4. It was very enjoyable. A lot of like wow moments
Wow.
with the pruning of making a lot of revelations. The timekeepers being basically Chuck E. Cheese animatronics was hilarious. Because even at the start of the show, like timekeeping lizard wizards. I don't know, but like that is something that should be believable in this universe.
Yeah,
But they still
Mobius
play it off
puts
as
on
something
Loki,
that's
and he's
ridiculous.
Like, well, you're a son of a frost giant and the god of thunder, and wow.
Right? Yeah.
He's like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so I'll give it a 4. It was great.
All right. 80, what you think?
I'm going to go 4 as well. Much better pace of plot moving along. I like them introducing a little backstory for the other characters, C20 especially, and her, going on that mind trip. I like the opening scene too, where you saw, was it Renslayer? Oh no, it was that, who was the agent that that Sylvie captured and like the
B-15.
I think C.
Wait, no,
B-15.
you're talking about when they went back
C20.
to C20 when
Right.
she was doing the scene where they're in the bar and like, we've been friends for a long time. Yeah. How she has to go in the memories. Yeah, I like
love that
the
scene.
concept of a mind that's strong enough or has enough mental fortitude where she can't immediately take them over. She has to take them back to a memory and lull them into a sense of false security before she can strike. That's cool.
Because immediately when I saw that scene, I was like, it felt like Inception when Leonardo DiCaprio was trying to explain, like, listen to me, you're in a dream, all right? Don't freak out.
Mhm.
This is me in your mind trying to protect you from yourself, kind of deal. I was like, oh man, this is cool. It was good there.
That was a great moment. Good to point that out. I really love that too. Definitely.
Yeah. So I give it a 4, and of course the shocker at the end with the end credits. I was like, holy shit, there's 5 of them. Oh my god,
It's an alligator. Oh no.
Yeah.
GP.
there's a black Loki. Oh,
There's a black one.
One of them's wearing cosplay. I think he's just from Earth. He got brought out here. He was at a party.
Right.
was at a convention.
That was a cool way to introduce the classic Loki costume. I love that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right, GP, what'd you think?
I give that one 4 wows.
Wow.
I like the information they gave towards the end of the episode. Like, you think this was this, but nope. Think again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also one of those timekeepers look like Lorax from Dr. Seuss, which was hilarious.
I thought they looked like those aliens from Star Wars, the ones that like hired like the clone army, like Sir General, like those guys, with the eyes.
The kind of
Yeah,
Chinese
yeah,
ones.
Yeah,
Chinese
they're
ones.
kind of coded Chinese a little bit. You're right.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? The Republic is doing
They be talking fast.
They're clearly Chinese there, folks.
That's super fucked up.
I mean, that's what people do in Hollywood, man. They take, who are we going to code this race as? Oh, they're Native
Right.
American. All right, yeah, I would probably give it a solid 4 out of 5 as well. I really enjoyed it for all the reasons that you guys mentioned, so no need to rehash it. Let's get into episode 5. So episode 5 is called Journey into Mystery. This was a cool one. So Renslayer tells Sylvie that when Loki was pruned, he was sent to the void at the end of time, from which nothing has ever returned. They deduce that the TVA's true creator is hiding just beyond the void. TVA mascot Miss Minutes stalls for time until the TVA troopers surround Sylvie, who prunes herself and soon meets Mobius in the void. After interrogating B-15, Renslayer plans to reach the TVA's true creator. Meanwhile, the other Loki variants tell Loki that a massive cloud-like creature called Alieth destroys everything in the void. After encountering a second Loki group that devolves into infighting, which was nuts, Classic Loki helps Loki, Alligator Loki, and Kid Loki escape. They come across Mobius and Sylvie, and Mobius returns to the TVA using a TemPad that Sylvie brought with her. Sylvie attempts to enchant Alieth, while Loki distracts it, but they fail until Classic Loki sacrifices himself by creating an illusion of Asgard to draw Alieth's attention. Loki and Sylvie successfully enchant Aliev together, and the creature shows them the way to the Citadel beyond the void.
5
Action-packed.
out of 5.
Yeah.
5 out of
Indeed.
5.
5 out of
Old
5.
Loki using his powers was the dopest thing I've seen
Yeah.
It was
on the
neat.
show in the MCU in a while. It was just like, wow. He's literally creating Asgard as an illusion.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, he was
Right.
basically building up a giant sandcastle and daring the 5th grade bully to kick it over.
Right.
It was very cool. All right, well, AD, what'd you think about the episode overall?
Overall, close up. Yeah, I'll give it a 5. I'll give it a solid 5 out of 5 for that one. I love the fights amongst the Lokis in the little hideout that they had here, especially seeing political Loki.
President
he was
Loki.
President Loki.
There were a lot of
cool.
Easter eggs in that room, too. I saw, like, a decommissioned arcade cabinet that used to give people seizures. I was like, holy crap, that's a deep cut.
Yeah, GP
What's the name of that
actually
game?
pointed-
Forgot the name of that game. Polaris.
I don't think it's Polaris, but I have to look it up. But it was like, it was a crazy Easter egg.
Yeah, GP pointed out to me that there was a ton that I didn't even catch. I had to rewatch it and see what he was talking about. But then, like, they showed what Frog Thor was in the little
Frog
was
Thor,
in the
Thanos copter.
soil.
Yeah,
the
they
Thanos
had
copter.
fun with that room for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love the plot of like Sylvie coming. You see, this is where Sylvie seemed like the smartest individual, which I'll get to my point for the season finale. I was like, okay, she has a plan. You know, she's like the smartest of the Lokis. She's gonna enchant this thing. The only question I had was like, how did the other Loki, the one that we've been following, just get this upgrade boost out of nowhere in terms of enchanting this huge ass creature? So I was just like, that was a little bit like rushed. I feel like
Asspolery, power, friendship type stuff.
Yeah, just hold my hand. You'll get
Hold
the upgrade.
hands,
Okay,
yeah.
Well,
all right.
I was okay with it because Loki is, for all intents and purposes, he's a god, right? Like, he's imbued with the powers that he gained from being created by frost giants and then being in Asgard and whatever that entails. And there seems to be a lot of myth and lore tied to, like, the Norse mythology, the god of thunder. What does that actually mean? You find out that it's not really the hammer, but it's inside Thor all along, right?
Right.
And Odin does all this crazy shit too. So it didn't really seem too far-fetched for me that if a Loki variant can do a particular thing, that another Loki, if they exercise that particular muscle, could also do it. You could say it was a little rushed, but the fact that he was under such duress and that he had been inquiring about it for a while, like, how do you do this? Shows me that he was thinking about it, and then finally when push came to shove, he was able to kind of manifest that power in himself that was probably latent all along.
Latent abilities.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Thanks for explaining that. Now I feel better about it.
That's what's going on in my head canon. What about your head canon, GP? What do you think about the episode?
I liked all the Easter eggs in this one. I give it a 5 out of 5. I like the side story conversations between Lokis and how whatever happened in their ultimate dimensions, how they, like, Kid Loki killed his brother Thor, and how he's the head honcho of within all the Lokis, and classic Loki about him surviving that confrontation with Xanos in Infinity War. So, and how his life is after that. It was pretty cool, man. Yeah. I give it a 5 out of 5.
Right on. And Derek, you said you gave it a 5 out of 5, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to know the deal with Black Loki with the hammer. Like, what was
if you guys watched it with closed captions on, they called him Boastful Loki, I think.
Boastful.
Boastful
Loki. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe he just talks a lot of shit because he was lying. Wasn't he, like, in the thing, like, and I did this and that and the other, and they're all like, bullshit.
Yeah. He double crossed all of them towards the half of the episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man,
yeah, you're right. He led the other team there. He was the one, wasn't he? I forgot
That
about
guy
that.
had to be the double crosser, didn't he?
Right.
Yeah. That's how
He had
it
to be
be.
one of them Lokis. I was surprised
Like, when I heard
there
his name, I
weren't
was
more
like,
than Lokis.
Boastful Loki? I was like, they just took out the L-A-C-K and just put the rest of the word boastful in there. They didn't want to say, it's Black Loki.
Right.
B Loki.
B Loki. B dot Loki.
Loki. What's up?
I'm just
B
Loki from the block.
Loki.
Right.
I just Loki from the
Used to have a hammer, now I have a Glock.
And nobody don't know where I came from.
Right.
Oh man.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's a
swear
5
if he
out
had
of
a
5.
do-rag now to give it away. Oh, it's
Oh,
Oh, no.
okay.
Oh,
Look out for that one.
man.
Been like, hey, me and your mama going on a date. You dig? You
Right.
cool with that?
You cool with that, Jody?
You cool with that? Jody.
All right. Well, I'll give it a 5 out of 5 too. I think it was fantastic. I love the Easter eggs, the different Lokis, the chaos. It was wonderful. And it really set up hype for the next week. So we get to the final episode, For All Time, Always, which is a phrase that Renslayer and Mobius like to say to each other because they love each other. They're best. They're BFFs.
Yeah.
I mean, until she prunes them, of course.
Right.
So Renslayer leaves on a mission to find free will, quote unquote, after Miss Minutes gives her information from the TVA's creator, He Who Remains. B-15 proves to TVA troopers that they are variants by showing them a Renslayer variant who is a school vice principal. Meanwhile, in the Citadel at the end of time, He Who Remains tells Loki and Sylvie that he ended a multiversal war between his variants by using Alieth to destroy alternate timelines, and created the TVA to maintain his peace. As he has grown weary, he offers them a choice. Kill him and risk another multiversal war. Basically, risk another Marvel Phase 6, right? Or whatever it is, Phase 5.
Mhm.
Or replace him in overseeing the TVA in a singular timeline. Now, Sylvie wants to kill him, but Loki pleads with her to stop. They kiss, but after a fight, and Sylvie kind of sends Loki back to the TVA headquarters, she kills He Who Remains, unleashing a multiverse with alternate timelines that the TVA cannot prune. And at TVA headquarters, Loki runs to warn Mobius and B-15 about He Who Remains variants, but they don't recognize Loki, and then he looks over where the statues of the Timekeepers usually are located and sees that a statue of one of the variants has replaced them. So it looks
Curly
just
hair
like
and
He Who
everything.
Remains. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. All right, Derek, what did you rate this episode?
I'd give this one a 4 because Jonathan Majors killed it.
He was really good.
I really enjoyed it. Like, his monologue's just ridiculous. Like,
Right.
I don't know. I don't think I was expecting him to do badly, but he actually really surprised me because Lovecraft Country, while I do love Lovecraft Country, I don't think he was amazing in it. So when he was in this, I was like, okay, let's see what you got, Jonathan Majors. Time for you with the big boys now. Let's do it. And then he pulled through. He did it. So I really enjoyed the episode. Some decisions that were made were kind of, but you kind of got to do those things to set off the next phase. So, it is what it is. It's like a Star-Lord Thanos moment.
Yeah, I think he's really got it in him. I think where Jonathan Majors suffered is he was in a cast in Lovecraft Country with actors who were just fucking crushing it from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And so by comparison, but he had some really good scenes, and I feel like he has that range that's needed. And you're right, like this episode showed that, and I'm really excited to see him now in the next Ant-Man. That's going to be amazing. So, all right, AD, what'd you think?
I'm going to go with 4 as well. Yeah, 4. 4 seems right.
Yeah.
I would say 3.75, but I'll give it a 4. Because as much as they were explaining everything, I really wished, like you said, I think you mentioned it earlier, like if they gave it one more episode to let that kind of information stretch out a bit, so it wasn't seem like the whole episode was just one big conversation. For the most part, they had one last attempt at showing some action with Sylvie and Loki fighting, and once again, the playful swordplay did not work here. It's just like we've seen this before. But what hurt it for me was just the whole Sylvie's switch in her arc, like in less than 5 minutes. She was built up throughout the whole season as being very smart, cunning, understanding, and he gave you a very thorough explanation for 25 minutes of what to not do. It's your choice. And she goes and just decides to kill him. I was just like, chick, did you just hear what he said? Like, what part of that did not make sense to you? So that kind of like threw me off with Sylvie's character there in the end. But other than that, I mean, the MCU moving forward setup, that's massive. We all know where it's going next. So in terms of that direction that they're going in, that's why I was like, all right, let's just give it a 4.
Exciting. Yeah. GP, what you think?
I gave it a 4 as well. Jonathan Majors his character was a great way to introduce a variant of this character. I got a question about this whole episode though. if he wanted them to take head of the whole timeline, why they was trying to stop them from creating a Nexus event? If they kill him, they're going to create time branches anyway. So why would you want two people that's already going to create time branches if they get close together, heads of the whole TVA? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think he talked briefly in his monologue how he was trying to find the one, and it ended up being two people,
Right.
and that one of the possibilities could be that they would work together.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they had this conclusion they wanted to get to. They wanted He Who Remains to die, and they wanted the multiverse to go out of control so Kang the Conqueror could come and wreck shop, right? And they were trying to figure out how to get there. And I think they ran into a Game of Thrones situation where they got a little bit too sloppy, because Sylvie, I feel like her Nexus event was just existing, or like once He Who Remains decided that she was part of the equation. So she didn't really do anything wrong, but she was pruned specifically to give her that rough life, to make her super mistrustful. But I feel like either some unintentional prodding from He Who Remains on a sore spot of hers could have maybe helped tip her over the edge and make her portray her character less, or something throughout the series convincing her that this timeline truly isn't the way, outside of just being butthurt about being pulled away from her family, right?
I actually thought that it was they took her because she was considering being a Valkyrie. That would change the timeline.
That could be. That could be. I don't know, but the way that they kind of, I don't want to say retconned, but the way that they kind of explained how Loki and Sylvie got there at the end was that He Who Remains had decided at one point that that needed to happen. And so everything that they did, because once they got there, the timeline was under control again. So it could have proceeded if they decided to take it over. But since he had only reached a certain point of time knowing what would happen, and then they got to that together, at that point, he knew that one of the possibilities could be that they would trust him and take it over. And maybe that was the only shot that he had. Maybe every other choice were too many variables, and he was just at the point where he was about to give up. I don't know. You get so messy when you talk about timelines and time travel and possibilities.
Yes, that's what we were talking about on our show.
Yeah. I mean, if you're entertaining and there aren't too many plot holes, and I can think somewhat deeply about it and still be okay, I think it's fine. Not everything's going to be done perfectly, but I agree with you guys. I would give it a 4 out of 5 as well. It reminded me while I was watching it, and I'm not the first person to make this observation, it reminded me of the end of Matrix Revelations, I think, which is the sequel, right?
Revolutions. Yeah.
Revolutions, thank you.
The architect.
Ergo, concordantly, vis-a-vis, your creation. Or they just explain and retcon the whole plot of the war against humans and machines. Obviously, it was done way better. It was an exposition dump, but not in a way that made me feel like exhausted and tired, like, oh my god. But at the same time, I think we can all agree that while it was a great episode and a great series overall, one more episode, or maybe just no episode 3, and use that extra time to do some more with this would have helped it breathe, and maybe even give Sylvie more characterization to make her arc more believable.
Right.
Yeah, because it's just like what you said with Game of Thrones, like the Dragon Queen. She got what she wanted, and then out of nowhere, in less than 10 seconds, she decides to burn the whole damn city.
And that's
It's
the
like,
problem. That's the problem. You see, George R.R. Martin, he writes his characters very detailed and specifically and succinctly, and then he lets those characters inform where his story goes. Once we got past the books, HBO wrote the ending first, and then was like, how can we make those characters get to the ending? And that's why most of the characters in that show betrayed their characterization themselves and their arcs, because they were no longer acting as their characters would. They were acting in service of a predetermined plot.
Right.
And I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because for all the benefits of the planning of the MCU, and it's glorious, often imitated, never duplicated, this can be a shortcoming if you rush into the ending too quickly. They predetermined 6 episodes and that they had to get to the multiverse somehow, and this is how they did it. And just a little bit more time to breathe, they wouldn't have to portray Sylvie's character so much, I feel like.
Right.
Mhm.
I have a question. Would any of you like a show if it was already created as a book? Would you like it to go beat by beat with the book, or would you like some changes?
Some changes I think is good. I don't read a lot. Like, I didn't read Game of Thrones or anything, so I feel like if I would have read it and then watched the show, I would have been upset.
Oh yeah.
But like, if it's based off of a book, I think that a series or any other adaptation should take some liberties, but it should still remain true to the essence of what made it good in the first place. And that's what a lot of things are staying away from.
Exactly. That's the tough thing about an adaptation too, especially when you go cross medium, because a book typically can't translate one-to-one to a film depending on the size and the depth of what they talk about. You know, with books, you can get away with a lot that you can't get away with in a movie, and vice versa, right?
Right.
So like Derek said, I completely agree. The spirit is what you want to capture. Some people are really good at that, some aren't. I mean, you can look at an example from the same director. Look at The Lord of the Rings versus The Hobbit. Right? The Lord of the Rings, some of the book purists were pissed about The Lord of the Rings because they gave some of Gandalf's lines to Aragorn, some of Aragorn's lines to whoever, right? They switched things around. They made some things less of a conflict than others, other things more of a conflict. I'll give you an example. Faramir, when he first meets Frodo and Sam, they have tea and then he sends them on their way. He never threatens to capture them or try to take the ring. But they needed that drama to kind of wrap up the second film, right?
Okay.
But I think that worked in service of the movies. And I think if they followed the book directly, beat for beat, it wouldn't have the same kind of structure that you need for a movie to have good pacing. Now, then you go to The Hobbit, where they stretched the whole thing out and made a bunch of bullshit out of it. It was horrible. And they completely lost the spirit of that book in service of having another trilogy and in service of more money. You can tell that the passion for the first project was real, and everybody involved was like, let's make the best damn adaptation we can make. And then the second one, it was like, well, here we go again. Let's make some more money.
It was a green screen. Yeah. Let's go crazy.
Yeah.
Let's go crazy.
So yeah, I don't care if they make changes as long as the essence is the same and the spirit of it. I have seen some movies that were like beat for beat the book. The Green Mile comes to mind. You guys ever seen that? The Stephen King?
Yeah.
That was, other than how the story was told from the perspective of the main character from the future, he actually writes the story down rather than telling his friend like he does in the movie. Everything else, down to the porn comic that Percy was reading about Popeye, everything was exact. I was like, holy crap, they literally just took the book and put it in here. So it can be done with some books, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was trying to explain when we were reviewing that last episode. It's just like, this is where Marvel has to be careful with how close they stick to their comic and what they translate into their movies, because you can easily lose your audience's attention with how you explain things here in the multiverse, right? It's like, okay, yeah, because in the comics, it makes sense. Like you said, on paper, it makes sense to put these things together. You got all these random explanations, but you come in here and it's just like, okay, you see what happens here with Sylvie's character arc. This is just Sylvie. Think now on a grander scale when they go into Multiverse of Madness or Spider-Man 3, all these different things that could pop off. And then it's like, how do you explain all these different variants or timelines? You have to be very careful.
Yeah, especially with new audiences, they like, wait, huh? What is this? I don't know. So yeah, you're right.
So far, I'm not seeing any reason to doubt them. I think that they're human beings, so we're not going to agree 100% on everything they do. But the accomplishment so far has completely blown my mind. When you just go back and think from the first Iron Man movie to now, just
Yeah.
And I just watched that like 2 weeks ago, dude. I was still floored by that movie. I was like, oh shit, this movie's so good.
I can't wait for What If next month. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
August is popping off.
You want to do a spoiler cast for that? Let us know.
We will be there.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. Overall, the show taken as a whole. Derek, give me your opinion. The show as a whole, what did you think? Give us your final thoughts.
I'm going to say it was, based on the 3 Marvel shows we've seen thus far, it was right in the middle. WandaVision being the top, Loki being second, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier being third.
Okay.
Overall, it was a great jumping off point for the next phase, because I feel like this is the actual show that really jumpstarts phase 4. The acting was great throughout. The storyline, while a bit confusing and convoluted at times, it was okay. And like I said, they did what they needed to do. I did want to talk about a couple of things that we brought up earlier. Why all the people are humans at the TVA.
Yeah, please.
Because the Kang variant is he's the 31st century scientist who discovered the multiverse. And I believe the character's actual name, you have to do a little research, but his name is Nathaniel Richards, who is a descendant of Reed Richards, who is human. So it would make sense that if human is going to create this time police force, that they would employ humans. It just makes sense. You want to have a bunch of different aliens and stuff. And the other thing was that for the whole series, I've just been thinking, like, is Sylvie really a Loki variant? Is she really a Loki variant? I don't know. At the very last episode, when she kicks him through the time door, she says to Loki, "I'm not you." Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that just resonates with me. I don't know why. The whole series, she's like, "Don't call me Loki, don't call me Loki. I'm not you." I don't know. It's just something seems off about that. So I don't know. Maybe she is just Loki and another character mixed together, because people are theorizing that she's actually just Enchantress because of her enchanting powers and everything, but they could have just melded the two characters together.
Yeah, I was going to say, the fact that Loki can also do what she can do, and that they, other than her being angsty and kind of just casting off her old life because she's so angry that was stolen for her, so to take back control, she's like, I don't want it anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
That to me leans more to that she is Loki. Like you said, though, she could be inspired by other characters as well. So maybe that'll play out in season 2. It's an interesting thought for sure. Yeah. All right, 80, your show thoughts overall.
Really weird random pop in there. It was Agatha all along. That's who it was. Agatha back again.
These are runes, Wanda.
I mean, I'm pretty much going to say ditto to what Derek just mentioned. I mean, it was a good jumping off point for the multiverse. Loki's character did get justice here in terms of how he was portrayed. It did what it needed to do in terms of pushing the next phase of Marvel forward. I am looking forward to learning more in terms of where Loki goes as a person here, because, I mean, there's so much more you could do with Loki in being that he's possibly the only person in this situation going forward in the next phase. So he can actually turn out to be a big hero, a big deal, and switching his whole arc over completely. So I'm thrilled with what they gave us here with Loki, especially that bomb-ass soundtrack. So we'll have that bumping in the car soon enough. And thank you there for Loki. I'm cool with it.
All right, GP?
I give Loki the best Marvel series yet so far, because WandaVision, even though it was a mystery, it was basically a mystery that they refused to give to you until towards the end of the season. Loki, on the other hand, gives you mystery and also introduce you to a whole new world as far as the TVA, where it's from, and variants. It gives you a whole new thing that other Marvel shows didn't give you. Also, they give you like this crime drama, like Loki and Mobius being these like partners. It reminds me of Law and Order episode mixed with sci-fi. So something new that no Marvel show gave you yet. Basically, the whole show gave you new things and what's to come in the future events of Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
So I say Loki is the top dog for TV shows for Marvel right now.
Cool. I think I would mirror Derek's sentiments. I think the shows are also different. Everybody's opinion is going to differ. I think personally, I did like WandaVision the best, followed by Loki, and then Captain America and Winter Soldier. I think, or Falcon and Winter Soldier. Well, now it's Captain America and Winter Soldier. But what I really liked about these shows is they took characters that I was kind of like on and made me really like them, especially Wanda and Vision. I'm just on board with whatever they're doing, And I think what was cool about Loki was there really wasn't any kind of real world influence or anything political in nature that kind of soured the show, because Marvel's a bit centrist. I've spoke on the show before about my issues of Falcon and Winter Soldier and how they treat revolutionaries. You know what I mean? It's like they make someone like Killmonger make a point, but then they also make him a complete asshole, so then you align the point he's making with somebody who's terrible, And
Right.
it doesn't need to be that way. You wrote it that way. You know what I mean? And it almost just sounds like, well, you know, both sides. I hate that shit. So that put a sour taste in that for me, and my cynicism about, you know, things going on politically. It's still a great show, though. I enjoyed it. And then with WandaVision, there was a lot of allegory about grief and loss and what that does to a person, which really spoke to me on a personal level. So that's why I think I like that more. And I just love the TV show parodies. They were great. The music was fantastic.
Yeah.
Agatha will forever be one of the greatest characters. And then with Loki, it was just pure comic book, you know? You didn't really have to think about any real world influence that they were pulling. You didn't have to think about emotions and grief or politics or any of that. It was just, let's go on a fun, stupid ride and enjoy comic books being comic books. And I need that sometimes. I need the distraction. That's what we go to entertainment for occasionally. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to watch something that makes you think. And it's not like this show doesn't do that, but I like how it can just be its own thing and you don't have to worry about it trying to make any kind of statement or drawing comparisons to anything. So, you know, that was cool.
Right.
So yeah, overall, I'd give the entire show probably a 4 out of 5. I think from the ratings that everybody else gave it, that you guys would all agree.
Yeah. Average out to
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it for this spoiler cast. Special shout out to Call It Like I Don't See It podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We always love to have you on.
One more time.
Oh man. So yeah, before we sign out, for any of our listeners who haven't already checked out the show yet, can you please tell the folks out there where they can find more of you guys, your opinions, your show, what you're about? Let them know.
Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Call Like I Don't See It. gmail.com for all your podcasting needs.
Right, and these guys right here, they're talking movies, sports, video games, comics,
Food.
nerd
Food.
shit,
And food.
And food.
and just a great vibe, great show, so definitely check them out. And Derek, if anybody wants to get into what you got going on, where can they find you at?
As you might know from listening to our show, I'm a full-time eBay Amazon reseller, so you can find my eBay store at ebay.com/str/gamergoodies and more, on Instagram at gamergoodiesmore, and on Twitter at goodies_more.
All right, and you can find our show at our hub, anchor.fm/player2 is entered the pod. We upload every single Sunday and occasionally do bonus episodes like this, so if you want to follow us there, you can. You can also find us on facebook.com/player2 has entered the pod, and YouTube at player2 has entered the podcast. We are found wherever podcasts are available, so you can check us out on Breaker, Google Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you have any feedback, questions, suggestions, maybe want to be on a future episode or want to hear another spoiler cast, shoot us over an email at mcpaperstacks@gmail.com. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is in our episode. Thank you all so much for coming out and listening to you. We love you, and we are signing off. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye-bye.